Hello, my name is Dr. Mengelito, also known amongst my brothers in the clans under such titles as the Leader of Men and Explorer of the Sea, and amongst my enemies as Shithead, Kant, or Mongolito, but generally most just call me Meng. I'm a second generation Khan, a pagan Khan, a wasteland rockstar, and I currently serve the oldest and most prestigious Fallout-themed clan in existence, as an overlord, a baron of the Red Order, third in command, and as right hand to our beloved raid leader Chieftain Sven, who himself serves as the wrecking ball of the elusive Gargantua, the dictator of the Red Order. Outside of the subculture that is our brotherhood, all these titles might sound a bit weird, but within the clans it all bears a weight which we will delve into in this series of podcasts dedicated to preserve the culture and the history of our clan, which was founded in the year 2000 on Fallout tactics. Over the years we've grown up, got lives and experience, and the most ancient clans have been members for more than half of their lives by now. And the people behind our pseudonyms and titles today constitute an international network of engineers, bikers, real-life superheroes, junkies, extreme left-wing activists, extreme right-wing activists, real-life strongmen, criminals, teachers, construction workers, politicians, rap artists, Freemasons, musicians, guitar heroes, gangsters, web developers, nurses, conspiracy theorists, lunatics, infrastructure inspectors, cultists, Christians, veterans, as well as a fair number of members behind bars. And we're all still held together by the camaraderie, good times, and our core values, which are dirty, mean, and most importantly rude, for the worse or bad. We are raiders, and these are our stories.
Marching in perfect order, fighting every border, never pulling back. God, Raiders, attack!
Welcome to the Vault 15 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mengelito, and today's guest is the COM president himself, Gargantua. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Would you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Don't really know what I should say, but I work in construction by trade, and I manage people professionally. That's more or less what I do, and I love my job. I love building buildings, and I love being a con.
And you are the Khan dictator.
Yeah, after many moons and some hard battles and some difficult times, I somehow have managed to stay in power, and I'm the leader of the cons to this day.
So how long have you been leading this organization now?
Since the summer of 2001.
That's that's a long time, man. So how did it all start?
Well, for me, it all started in January 2001. What had happened was prior Christmas, Fallout Tactics demo had come out. It was a single player only demo. It was pretty intense, and I really enjoyed it. I was a big Fallout fan, as were some of my friends. And then when they released the multiplayer demo at the end of January, I downloaded it right away, and I had a really terrible computer, to be honest, but I mean, it could barely kind of handle running it, but I was able to play the game, and I got right into it. And basically the first day that I joined, January 28th, I was online, I was instantly enamored with all the different organizations that existed and the different, crews of people and stuff like that. And I was determined to be a bad guy. I was sick of all this goody two-shoe, nonsense kind of thing, right? And I wanted to kick some ass and be mean and be dirty. And I saw the name Cons, and I was like, yeah, these guys are going to be awesome, right? So then I went to their website, and I was instantly enamored in a completely visual experience. They had a very good website, and it was really cool. And right away, I was welcomed into the organization. And I talked with the founder of the organization on that day.
So it was Viren who founded the Cons, right?
Yes, it was Viren. And actually, I only ever spoke to him, I'm going to say 2 more times other than that one time.
What do you remember of Byron?
The first time I talked to him, he was pretty cold. He was obviously older than me. He was from California, so we had similar hours, and he was busy with whatever else was going on in his life. So he, right after we'd met, he basically disappeared after that day, and we didn't see him again until the summer of 2001, when he sort of briefly returned and was surprised that the organization was still in existence. I had 2 conversations with him in and around that time in the summer, and it was fairly clear that he had been very enamored with drugs, and was very exploratory and curious, and had really sought a lifestyle of mind expansion, if you will. And and he talked to me about actually conversations he'd had with demons, quite literally. At least that was the way he interpreted it, face to face. And he went into some detail about those events, and then he disappeared after producing a handful more images and signatures for us.
So you're saying the cons as an idea could have been inspired by Byron's demons?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. And I've never heard anything about Byron really, how he was, or I know we have searched for him for a while, for many years, but I'm cheating a bit, of course. I'm reading the history timeline here. But it seems he disappeared. Where was he from?
He was from San Diego. I know that from searching for the IPs that I had for him. And he was a gamer into real-time strategies based on the games, and the sort of late data links I found, as well as what happened when I took over the cons in 2001 was I had access to the website, and there had been a number of files that were uploaded there, and some of them sort of left clues to other places he had participated. I also had the original IP of the site. It was hosted on a server without a .com name. It was just an IP address that you could connect to. And that IP address was obviously the San Diego address, and that was his personal server. It was up, I think, until 2002, and then it went down.
All right. So I'm looking at the timeline here. So September 01, 2000, Byron founds the cons, and then we have some interesting things that has changed, right? There's a guy called Xaris who founds the first con forum in December of 2000. Do you remember this guy, Xaris?
No, Xaris was before my time by, I'm going to say, Christmas 2000. He had basically been out of the picture and gone inactive. And actually at that time, the cons had started quite busy. They put their website together. The first thing they did was pick a number of forum fights across a spectrum of different forums and websites. Fallout X being one, and what else was the Interplay forums as well, and the Vault 13 forums. They were very, very unpopular. Created a number of dissentful relationships. What ended up happening was, because they were constantly waiting for the game, it was kind of hard to recruit members, and it was basically it was just a bunch of forum warriors, whatever, a handful of them, and they basically went inactive in and around Christmas time because the interest had died off and while they were waiting for the game. And then when the demo finally got released, it was an unexpected surprise, but the majority of the membership had already kind of disappeared.
All right. It says there, it's quite funny. I'm gonna read it for the archives here. Late winter 2000. The discussed intent of the cons is to stay small and elite. A limit of 11 members maximum is imposed. Community forum spam and hate is overwhelming against the cons. The cons successfully create hostile relations with all community groups. So
yeah, that's it.
So it seems that we're quite a long far away from 11 members these days, but it seems that the core of the organization is still quite the same these days.
Absolutely, and it was really about, like, we don't need you to be our friend, basically, unless you're part of our organization and with our worldview. And the 11-member limit, although I always opposed it.
Yeah.
Although I always opposed the 11-member limit, the intent was to create a core group of brothers and people who could really count on each other because they couldn't count on anyone else. And certainly that they would be a force to be reckoned with, be it in the public setting of conversation on forums or whatever, chat rooms, or in the game.
Yeah, it seems here. I'm looking here. It says that in January 27, 2001, Byron posts that the Khan webpage is under attack. What do we know about that? Was that a hacker attack or?
I'm not sure. What I can tell you is I joined the day after this event had occurred, and Byron had just got the website back up. And it appears that some kind of a person named Ed Dean, I think he had been either a member of the cons and had betrayed them, or which is a theme that you'll run into a lot, or he had been an outsider who had done something to the website. But I don't know what the event was, other than something had taken the website down and that this guy was the culprit for
it. Yeah, an interesting thing there also in this little email there is, the culprit's email is there. Fucking Ed Dean at USA.net. Fuck you, Ed Dean. But it's funny to see like Byron suggests if any of you has any email bombs or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Outlaw from the start. So it says here, yeah, and there we have UN lists at January 28, 2001. There's a couple of guys listed here as the membership back then. We talked about Byron. There's also a second there, Lalande.
Yes, Lalande.
Lalande. All right.
So you want me to expand on Lalande?
Yeah, please.
All right. So Lalande was the second, also known specifically at the time as the right hand. He was a Final Fantasy nut. That was his avatar image that he used. And for all intents and purposes, because Byron was so absent, Lalande was essentially who was in charge of the organization, and he was running it. And to be honest, he did a pretty good job, I think, managing the expectations, managing the organization, getting us combat ready, and he was certainly, someone I was inspired to follow behind and to work with. I was only 16 at the time, and I know Lalande was a bit older than me, but it was good times, and I thought he was a pretty good leader. But in the end, and I'm not sure why, but he ended up, I guess, embittered with Byron being gone, and he ended up actually betraying the cons and leaving for our sworn enemy at the time. A good decade we were the sworn enemy of these guys. Was the Black Company, and he participated with them for some time.
That's actually an interesting tradition that the right hand leaves for the arch enemy. But we're going to talk about that in a later cast, actually. So, but it seems like he was still like a cornerstone at the time and kept things floating for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was a pretty personal guy. I liked playing with him. He was a good dude.
What was he like? Was he anything like? Did he have was he like an outlaw clan or like a? What was his personality like?
The best example that I could use to say what he's like, and then of course this is half my life ago, right? So I'm trying to. I don't know. He was a typical gamer. He was very professional minded, very competitive. Definitely a go-getter. Was quite active at the time. Was intelligent. He at one point there was some rumors that there was people who invented a crack or a hack for the game. And Lalande actually produced this gigantic report about, basically exposing who the cheaters were and whatnot. That's not a con tradition. I mean, cons don't report. It's kind of the way we do it now. I would say that's his first sort of break from our identity. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have much to say. He started his own organization after he left, called the Scorned. No one ever joined him and followed him, and then that was the end of his follow tactics career.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Then we have a guy called Kinetic.
Yeah, so Kinetic was a member to the late 2000s, Christmas sort of era. He downloaded the demo on the first day. He fought well. He actually killed the leader of TBC on the first day in 1v1 combat, and that was a big deal at the time for whatever reasons. And but other than that first sort of 2-3 days or a week of the demo, I never actually gamed with Kinetic or had anything to do with him. The only time he came into play later is you'll see the next two names on the list was Graves and Black Death. And essentially, Graves and Black Death, because Graves at one point was leader of the cons as well, but these guys essentially, all three of them backstabbed the cons, actually deleted our original forums that we had, and deleted a bunch of stuff on our website, and attacked our organization, kicked us in the teeth when we were down. So that's all I can really say about Kinetic.
So Kinetic, Graves, and Black Death, traitors.
Yeah, and Graves as well.
I've noticed their names are still in the Hall of Legends.
Yes.
Yes.
The reason that I did that, I mean, okay, so these guys had some bad moments, okay, and even Leyland, and actually, if you look down this whole list, you got Byron, who basically, is the father that abandoned us. You got Leyland, who was the second, who was really the first person, I would say, to betray the cons. If not this Ed Dean guy before, I don't know quite the level of that involvement. Then you have Xeris, who really wasn't around. Then you had Kinetic, Graves, and Black Death, who all backstabbed us. Then you had Biohazard, who was actually a TBC spy, so he's out. And then you had Grizzly, FaZe, and myself. And FaZe I never really dealt with, and Grizzly was a solid member. And as for why these guys made the legends, people make mistakes, or people have their times, and the rise and fall of clans is a daily, if not weekly, kind of event in online gaming. And so it's not uncommon to see people switch sides or turn on you or whatever in the nature of the games and the communities and little empires that you build. And Graves and Black Death actually was the first one who really kind of caved during this assault on the cons and said, this is wrong, we shouldn't have done this. It was supposed to be a joke, and it turned into something worse. And then Graves actually, I repaired that relationship later, and he actually returned to lead the cons to considerable success in World of Warcraft. So, these guys, they had their bad moments and whatnot, but part of the cons is that we have checkered history, all of us, and it's about sort of new beginnings. So, you know what? You were a criminal yesterday, but today you're my hero. So let's just go on that basis.
But you said Grizzly was a solid member.
Yes. So Grizzly was a cool guy. He used to always talk about eating pancakes, and he used to put all these pictures up of this old guy named Grizzly from some 80s TV show or whatever with a big beard, and that was his thing.
Huh. How was he like? What was his personality like? Was he like just a loyal guy, or?
He was one of these. He was a loyal guy, but he was also one of these like frenzy, fanatic, nut job types.
Nice.
Yeah, like the kind that would like cut your heart out and eat it, and then be like, oh, like I don't know, maybe I should put some pepper on that.
Yeah. How old were you back here?
I was 16 at the time.
Wow, it's a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you didn't really have any connection with FaZe yourself. So.
Sorry?
About FaZe. Did he just disappear? Or?
Yeah, you know what? He was on the members list. I never met him, never had anything to do with him, so don't know what to tell you.
Alright. Perhaps someone's friend that never showed up or something like that.
Exactly.
So, February 8th, Ray joins the cons. Who was Ray?
Yeah, so there's a reason that I noted that event specifically. So Ray was actually a kid that I went to high school with, who was I don't know how to say this better, but basically like he's one of those liars who like literally can't help himself. Like someone would ask him a question that would be like, life and death, like for his own safety, and he would lie. Like he just could not help himself but lie. La 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 la. And anyway, this guy joining our organization also went to join several other organizations to quote unquote spy. And actually, he created an interfactional shitstorm, for lack of a better word, about whose side he was on. And he also went by the name Cyrus. And then this whole concept of when we talked earlier about Leyland having this report about who's cheating and which organizations were doing what. It was actually Ray who was behind it all, like making up all these facts and saying all these things and providing information to different people. And it was actually this entire nightmare that he basically created. And I was telling everybody, like, I knew the truth the whole time, but then everyone's like, called my name and my honor into question. Oh, who's this Gargantua guy? He doesn't know shit. Ray, he's a great player. He must be all knowing. And I was a better player than Ray, but he was always schmoozing and talking with people and bullshitting. So he created a lot of problems.
Yeah, it says here, but Lalande and Ray seem to get along. Yeah, I can see in the timeline here. So Graves assumed the leadership and declared war on Lalande and Ray.
That's correct. Yeah.
Then we have, I can see here, and Ray was revealed by IP to be this Cyrus guy in another team as well.
Cyrus or Cyrus/Ray and Leyland went different directions, but when Graves took over, he made it clear that these are the enemies of the Khans and we were going to deal with them.
Right. And I guess it doesn't say, but I guess they were destroyed, or what happened?
Sorry, say that again.
What happened in this war between Khan and?
Well, it wasn't. I'm going to say it wasn't much of a war in the sense that Ray ended up joining a group called the Golden Blade Clan with some pretty tough opponents. But what happened in Fallout Tactics is you had different styles of games. So it was all about points. Like you could have a game for what's called 150K, which is 150,000 points, where people would have these elaborate teams with extremely high level characters that would fight. And it was basically, as far as everyone was concerned, reserved for kids. Then you had 10K, which was more like one-on-one duels of medium-level characters with pretty good gear, and it was like very, very popular meta of the game that people really liked. Then you had low K, which was all like really small groups, really low level, really basic gear, very, very tactical, like it was the Fallout Tactics experience. It certainly was the exact same experience as you get from the demo, but only like the really good gamers or the more mature gamers in general would play those. So GBC at the time and Ray's organization were really into the low K games. The Khans played some of that, but at this time we're predominantly in the 10K range, and that was kind of our specialty. So there wasn't actually a lot of fighting. And then the Scorn could never field enough because it was basically just Leyland. So he was always, playing with some other person on some other team, which is why he ended up basically joining TDC. And then as the Khans shifted into the low K to go fight these guys, basically to put it to bed, a lot of those organizations kind of folded as we moved in there to do that.
So I guess there was loads of smack talk back on the forums back then. Between the clans and stuff.
An unreal amount of smack talk. And actually, the website that it was called vault13.net. And right at the same time that I joined, Byron had managed to secure hosting. And we had whatever it was, cons.vault13.net. That was our website. And we actually had forum hosting there. So we actually had 2 forums at one point. And it was awesome. Like it was a really well put together forums, very slick looking, very strong community. But the cons and the shit talk and the clans, so to speak, basically ended Vault 13, or a major component of that, at least as I understand, because we made everybody sick of managing all the forum wars. Because it was one of these like forums where people were really intent about what their, oh, this has to be posted there, and these are the rules, and all this shit,
Yeah. So we have after this whole. This whole intrigue or drama, we have at 21st of May 2001, May 16, not the 21st, Gargantua assumes command of the Khans.
Yeah, so this was a pretty bad low point. What basically happened is Graves had refused to recruit. We're not going to recruit anybody. we're never, we're 11-man limit. That's how it's going to be. And even when people were inactive or not around, like he still refused to really add members unless they really pursued us and pushed for it. And so we basically had inactives. You had a handful of cons who were a little bit splintered between the types of games that they would play. Some guys played low play, some guys played 10K plus, whatever. And so Graves got fed up with it and was basically like, "Fuck you!" Like, I'm leaving, and I'm taking Black Death with me. And they left. And there was really only 3 cons left, and we had Biohazard, who was inactive, and that again is because he actually was a spy. And you had Cass, who was a member who, was around for a month, but had moved off to another game. So basically it was me. And the 3 of us were left in control. And I just seized control because nobody else would take it.
All right, so this was before the whole election thing.
Oh, yeah, way, way before. So I basically took control because there was nobody else to do so. There was nobody else left. So either I leave and the whole thing dies, or you take over and try and have some fun with it.
We have 2001 May 27th, when things start to turn around with when you recruit TKS Quasi. It says 2001 May 27th, Gargantua recruits Quasi into TKS, known arguably as the worst follow tactics players in the community. 2001 May 22nd, the power dynamics of the FOT community begins to shift.
Yeah, so Quasi was this, you guys complain about Vinny on occasion, about how he's, 14 and how he's just getting a little bit immature and whatnot. Well, as the cons at the time, basically we were a joke. It was one guy, people were, you're riding the dead horse, you're such a loser, blah, blah, blah. And the only person who'd actually joined was this forum monkey named Quasi, who was absolutely useless. I think he was either 11 or 12 years old, and he was notoriously known because he would spam the GSA chat with just stupid shit, which is kind of like the equivalent of Radio Zero and Reloaded. And he was widely hated, and he wanted to sign up. So I was like, all right, well, I don't have anybody else who's going to follow me, so I'll take whoever I can get at this point.
Yeah.
So anyway, I let him join, and of course the decision was like as I wrote here, widely ridiculed. Everyone was laughing at us, and basically made all these stupid posters up at the time of just Gargantua and Quasi, and how we were the death of the cons, and how it was so bad. But I played with this kid, and I taught him, and I taught him some things, and got him up to speed in the game. And got him some really good character builds, and all of a sudden he turned it around and actually started to be a decent player.
Yeah, it says here it all turned around when Quasi defeated the leader of some other clan called Genghis.
Yeah, so Genghis, and the reason his name is Genghis is because he was a member of the cons at one point. So Genghis at the time was my best friend in real life, and actually I joined the cons, he joined the cons the day after. And he ended up, and he again was also friends with Ray. I was not friends with Ray, but Genghis was. They were pretty tight. Anyway, so Genghis created this organization, and actually I helped them do it, called the 7 Plagues. I made their website for them at the time. It's shitty, but I think you can actually still find it online. Anyway, we got him all set up, and his clan, the 7 Plagues, actually exploded with members, and it was a very powerful organization. It was a big deal at the time. And Genghis was the leader of that and considered a very, very good player. And 7P was kind of the equivalent of a UV as we know it in Reloaded. Just the guys who were always the biggest organization and, doing the most PvP and very popular. So when Quasi defeated Genghis in single combat and posted these screens, it was this huge upset that one of these cons, especially this useless guy, could actually defeat the leader of 7 Plagues in single combat.
That's awesome. And then it says it jumps pretty in just a month there, or 6-7 days. It says the next point is cons have become a Fallout Tactics juggernaut. So people joined up after that.
That's just over a month that it takes. But that's essentially what it is. Was Quasi was the first, and then it really started to push it, and the dynamics started to change. I'm not sure when it is, but in here there's a schism where Genghis is second in command. A guy named Sky Forever actually basically coups Genghis and takes control of Seven Plagues and turns it into the soul of a thing, and then Genghis is left out on his own. And actually, Genghis at this time comes to play for me for a couple weeks or whatever. And between the two of us and Quasi, we started recruiting, and we picked up a whole bunch of members. And then we got a bunch of really good players, and we became a juggernaut.
So what happened to Genghis after that? Do you still have contact with him?
Yeah, on occasion. I mean, basically, we graduated high school. We kind of went our separate ways after that. He got married. I did invite him actually to the third Epoch of the Cons here about a year ago. I invited him out to come out, but I don't know. He's a banking investor now or whatever, and he's kind of a difficult guy to get a hold of. He was always kind of a bit like that, even as a kid, and he just more so as an adult.
So what happened to Quasi?
No idea. I lost to the annals of time. I think I'm going to say by September that year he wasn't around. He wasn't a thing anymore.
All right. So here's something I don't really get when I look at the records here. The New Raiders.
The New Raiders.
New
okay.
Raiders.
Well, I can explain the New Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what basically happened is, and I'm going to have to double check this, I'm going to say it was either in and around the winter of 2001, we started to look at other games to expand to because Follow Tactics was dying out. The game had kind of sold out its copies, people that came to play, and then the community was shrinking quite rapidly. And so we looked at a game called Neocron, and actually it expanded there. Basically, in 2002 we ended up there, and I'd have to double check if it was the winter of 2002 we went there or the winter of 2001, whatever it was. But I think it was the winter of 2001 we basically started shifting towards Neocron. So what happened was there was cons who were basically left behind, and Beef was one of those cons. He's a British guy, he's a good guy, a musician.
Yeah, and he was back here for a while, just recently.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so anyway, the cons officially left. We wanted a clean exit, so we said, okay, we left Follow Tactics. But basically, Beef put together some remnant cons, if you will, and he actually created a faction called the New Raiders, which was basically to redo the con experience. At least, he put it together, I'm going to say, in June of 2003. And then by August 2003, he basically dissolved it and just said, we're going to be the cons. And actually, we were in some communication at that point. And he basically led the cons from 2003 to 2005 in Follow Tactics.
All right. That's quite a long period, actually.
Yeah, it's considerable. I mean, not a lot was going on there. I mean, the cons were playing other games primarily. Yeah, he was our name and face for a number of years there, and to some legend.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know about this. So the New Raiders became the cons on FOT, while the main raid was on Neocron.
That's right. Yeah. So the cons essentially became the New Raiders for whatever 2 months or a month actually. Now they look at it, month and a half, and then he just was like, we're just going to be the cons. But I listed it in the history as a New Raiders.
All right, so it was like a break off and then a merge again.
Yeah, exactly, and it's there's a number of things he's written from his view at the time, and so if you look, I listed it as the Raider Captain's Log because he was actually what we call the 10K leader, which is it's funny because that's very similar to the TC leaders we've used in Reloaded.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. There's loads of material here.
Yeah, I love this. He talks about the Dark Ages, right? Gargantua, having led the cons so well through many, many months of Follow Tactics, helped by his right-hand man, Deacon, was feeling the pressure of looking after an ever-growing clan. New recruits were arriving by the bucket load and leaving just as fast. This was the time for GameSpy when clans became two-man powers and many failed to hang on. Clan matches were a rarity as it was hard to find men from both sides to make up the numbers. Gargantua at this point had pulled back to the forums where he was harassed by new clans starting up and looking to pick a fight with who they believed would prove their hardest challenge, the Khans. Mac, Drew, and Night God, the most notorious raiders in the Khans, had left to join other groups such as RxJ, where they went in search of glory and helpful advice. And then he goes on, right? So what of the Khans that remained? Half were waiting for a new game, with suggestions like Quake, Unreal Tournament, and others, but none of these proved to be what the Khans were after. Firewolf had done his research and found a new game company developing the world's first cyberpunk MMORPG. And everyone has a character in this first-person shooter where you gain levels and communicate with each other by speech and plasma cannon. The game was Neochrome. It was eagerly anticipated within the Khan ranks, and many went into hiding for this game. Those who were left in GameSpy, notably me and Rambo and a few others, were holding on to our respect by our little fingers when annoying noob after noob harassed us, Khans, and looked to bigger, more modern clans to get their glory. Khans was all but a tiny glimmer left in Fallout Tactics, mostly awaiting the new arrival of Neochrome.
Sounds like when they were developing the Fallout Online thing at the end of 2238.
Exactly.
So there's some names here that we haven't talked about. We have, of course, let's see, who's the first one here? It would be Deacon, I guess.
Deacon, yeah.
Could you tell?
I could talk about Deacon for a long time.
Right.
Deacon was my right-hand man. He is a Finn Swede, very, very humble guy, hardcore leftist socialist, which I'm not. And we got along great. I was unstoppable with that guy at my back, and we played a lot of games together. It was all heart. He cared all about the Khans. He never betrayed the Khans or did us any wrong. And did nothing but work tirelessly to build the organization. And of course, because he was in Europe, his day was before mine.
Yeah.
So he was always online, leading events and growing the organization.
So you took shifts, basically.
Yeah, basically, that's a good way to look at it. And we were on the same team for around 5-6 years during that sort of first epoch of the Khans. We did a lot of stuff together, and he's sorely missed.
Yeah, but we are in contact with him.
Yeah, we talk on occasion. He's really taken a step back from gaming to, focus on his business and life and whatever. And he's in his mid-40s now.
Yeah. So, Ghetto Goose and Firewolf, these two guys. I've heard Firewolf mentioned a couple of times at least.
Yeah, so Firewolf was kind of like your Bison. He was very rigid in the sense that rules have to be rules, they have to be done a certain way. Actually, they follow similar paths in that Firewolf really wanted to be what's called a helper or an admin with the GameSpy Arcade people, and he actually pursued that job line and got that. And actually, Bison, who's a little bit younger than him, did exactly the same thing. So they come from the same country, they have the same interests, the same mindset, and they kind of went in similar directions. Firewolf was with the Khans through Fallout Tactics, through Neocron, through Star Wars Galaxies, into World of Warcraft, and served us very well. And actually, when I retired and took a step back for career purposes and stuff in 2005, actually, maybe it's 2006, he actually became leader of the Khans and took it over. And tried to do sort of his best to run it. But as we know from the Bison experience, rigidity does not do our organization well.
No. It's hard to combine with the founding ideals, turns out.
Exactly.
So Ghetto Goose, this is a new name for me.
Ghetto Goose was a kid from the eastern United States, I believe, black kid. He made that very clear. He put his real picture, he said it was his real picture, but everybody said it wasn't. Supposedly it was anyway. He put his real picture in his signature, and he made a number of images for the Khans. And actually, he did some cool stuff. He was part of the Duck and Cover community, very strong member there. He actually got our forums temporarily hosted at the Duck and Cover community until they turned their backs on us and kicked us out of there. I can't imagine why, but so there was that. And he actually did a bunch of concept arts, albeit they're kid sketches, but he made some concept art for us at the time to put on our website. And he did quite a bit to try and grow our organization. The last time I saw anything from him, I do have his name, but I mean it's a pretty common name, so I don't know if you would ever find it. But he was making a comic book series or whatever, like an online comic for Duck and Cover. He did a bunch of episodes. It was pretty funny. And then we tried to get him back, I think, for Neocron or something just after that, and he was basically like, "No, I'm kind of moving on. I'm done," and I never saw him again.
So we have also Rambo and Drew.
So Rambo is from Israel, and he was a kid growing up during the troubles that they've had there and still have to this day. And actually, he more or less left the cons when he got conscripted into his. Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, he got conscripted into his government's military, and so he had to go. I do talk to him on rare occasion. I should actually email him again.
Oh, he's still out there.
Yeah, he's still out there.
Cool.
He works in the military, right? So he's not around all the time.
Yeah. So Drew.
Drew was a grumpy bastard, American. Good con though. He did flirt with some other clans here and there, kind of thing, but it wasn't so bad. He served with us. He served with us right until Reloaded. If you actually look at it, because he served in every iteration of the cons in some way or another. And actually, when Firewolf took over in World of Warcraft and I left, I think either Drew separated or went to a different server than Firewolf, because there was kind of like this civil war, if you will, at the time between some of the parties. And don't actually know what side Drew was on or wasn't. I don't know a lot about that period. But Drew ended up creating a cons organization and leading it to some success in World of Warcraft. I've not been able to find any evidence to support that, although I have talked to people, or 2, 3, 4 people, whatever, who were like, yeah, I played with them in World of Warcraft. It was a big deal. They had 150 members or something. Like it was quite a significant thing. And Drew talked about that himself when he came back to 2238. I've tried to get a hold of him since. I have not had any luck tracking him down.
Well, sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So what was he like? What was his traits or personality?
Super competitive, very aggressive, easily frustrated, not particularly polite. That's the best I can say for Drew.
A smack talker.
Yeah.
Was he like into the community and stuff?
Not so much. He was more so into the gamer stuff.
Yeah.
He participated loosely in obviously in the cons community, but if we went to another community, he had no interest in being with anybody other than us.
Yeah. So Night God, he showed up to the old forums at least. I saw some of the animations he did and stuff.
Yeah, he was a cool kid. Again, Midwestern American kid, very young at the time he joined, 13, 14, whatever. Very strong opinions, decent player, made some funny animations, was around for a number of years, was a fun guy. And as you see, has come back, and he's almost 30 now.
Yeah, shit, time flies, man. So Mac.
Yeah, Mac. All right. So actually, I have Mac's cell phone these days. I talk to him once in a while, and his life really hasn't changed much since his days in Fallout Tactics. Mac is always kind of aloof. He was a decent player. He was a shit talker. He couldn't spell to save his life, which people always give him a hard time for. He liked to think that he was a ladies' man, but he really wasn't. And I don't know. He used to have this ongoing feud with a member named Panamon, who was another guy from BC, who again had just recently got in contact with, and they absolutely hated each other. It would not surprise me if they still hate each other this day for whatever reason. And even though they were in the same organization, they were always just chomping at each other.
All right. So it was a classic Khan drama there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we have a guy called Cobra here mentioned, just in the
Yeah, you know
bypass.
what? I saw that name and it doesn't ring any bells, man. I'm sorry. We had a lot of
Alright,
people come and go, right? So I don't know.
yeah. So let's see here. Now we're down to, here's a new list that's supposedly after Necron. With do you see that one with Iceburn, Paranoid, Drifta, Tanto Metro, Assassin, Huntress, Neo, Draenox, the Edo, Vision, Muad'Dib, the Maxi, there's Drew again, Biohazard, and yeah, Rambo again.
Yeah, so Rambo, Drew, we've talked about Biohazard. That's a different one than the previous one we talked about.
Alright.
Vision, I briefly remember. And the only other person from that list that I had anything to do with, like a lot of these guys didn't register on the forums because they were just playing Fallout Tactics.
Alright.
But the only other guy who was around, and actually I still have some of his signatures and images, was Iceburn. I really liked Iceburn. We got on pretty good, and he was a pretty good Fallout Tactics player.
Alright. So, but these are from the new raiders then, so that Beef recruited
Yeah,
them.
they're from arguably what was Bison's era in Fallout Tactics, which followed right after Beef kind of left.
Strange that Bison isn't mentioned here in the list though.
Well, that's it. I think Bison started to play under Beef, and that's part of the reason that like we had our struggles. Is like, I mean, I had my interpretation of the cons from when I was a member and when I played Fallout Tactics and what it was all about, and you know the things we went through with the forums and whatnot. And Bison didn't come along until basically, I'm going to say 2003, 2004. So when he joined and started playing the game, you know, the game had already been through 2 years or whatever, and he actually served under Beef as the Raider captain or commander or whatever in charge. So I really had nothing to do with Bison for a long time, and his interpretation of what the cons was and what it was all about was very, very different. And in 2005, when basically Beef had left, Bison had asked, like, hey, can I take over Fallout Tactics and, you know, play it? And we just basically gave him control of Fallout Tactics, and I think he played until the day that he went offline.
So that would explain quite a bit why you have had arguments about what the roots of the cons was, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he would base his ideas on Beef's hyper-competitive leadership and playstyle, while you would base more on Byron's demonic visions.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's interesting. So we have empty chapters here of Neocron and Star Wars Galaxies that we can perhaps, and actually WoW is also empty, that we can perhaps return to if there's an interest in a later episode.
For sure.
But we have something called Auto Assault here.
Yeah.
I've never heard about Auto Assault before. What's that?
All right, so this was a very interesting time in the cons. So it's 2005. I was no longer in charge of the cons. It was run by Firewolf. And it was having a lot of growing pains and challenges, and was semi-inactive. Basically, there was a few members who were within the cons organization who were in positions of power, not just Firewolf, but other individuals who, you know, traditional cons really felt were basically destroying the organization. Who weren't taking it anywhere, and you know, were like a detriment. And the idea was, you know, can't we rebuild the cons into what it, you know, sort of once was, with the core people, you know, in the right kind of roles, and you know, we'll put Gargantua in charge because that sort of worked, and we'll have some fun with it. And so what I did is I talked with a member named
Sorry, what?
I talked with a member named Gio, and we created a secret forum actually for the cons. And we started to secretly recruit members from the past as well as members who are currently on the cons website, the ones that we basically hand-selected and wanted for this new game.
So you fished them out of the of Firewolf's cons then?
Yeah, exactly. And they, and, Firewolf and other leaders of the organization didn't know.
That's awesome. So
So
this game, Auto Assault, it sounds a bit like this cross-out thing we're trying out right now.
yeah, it was very, very well. There was some similarities. It was more like like Crossout is more like a MechWarrior Online. You do battles by group. At least that's my understanding. Auto Assault was supposed to be a full-on MMO, and you could get in and out of your car, and it was going to be super raider-ish. And so, I was really committed. Like, we put the website together. We started talking on their forums. Actually, I approached the president of the company trying to say, like, look, if I can bring, 100 or whatever, 1,000 members to your game, can we get a discount because we're pawns, and like that
Yeah.
type of a business approach. But we got, and as you can see together there, by whatever, we started March 15th, and by May 15th, we had about 80 cons registered to go hit this game, different
Wow.
people we talked to and invited. But the game just kept being delayed. And by spring the following year, the game still wasn't out. And then, it finally got released, a year and a bit later, so April 2006. But we had basically lost interest by then. The thing had died out, and life circumstances had changed, and whatever else. And that was right when actually I started my career in construction. So it wasn't in front of a computer 10 to 12 hours a day. And of course, it didn't help that the game was a critical disaster. And so a few cons that did buy the game and go were absolutely disillusioned with it. It was terrible. And they basically left. And of course, at the same time, the WoW cons basically went dark as well.
Yeah, so actually the archives, they end here. We have WoW cons have gone long gone dark. Auto Assault goes offline for good. So what the fuck happened? Like
Well, what
after
happened
that?
was, because of my life situation and my job, I can speak for me why I wasn't around. I basically, was working construction labor, so you never sit down in front of a computer, really anywhere near one.
Yeah.
I had about an hour and 20-minute commute each way, so there's another 2.5 hours on top of the 10 hours, and then, you had a girlfriend, life on the side, and I just didn't have time to game, like at all. And so I basically wasn't around to participate in the organization. So we had forums. The Wildcons had forums, and actually those forums were online steadily until 2012. I'm going to say. I could confirm that on some emails that I have, but I mean it's not like they were particularly active, and the organization just kind of petered out. There was no leader. There was nobody really taking responsibility for anything. The website itself went down because I couldn't afford to pay for it at the time. I saved the files or whatever, and I held on to the rights to the name, but couldn't pay for the hosting or didn't. And so it went dark.
So oh shit, man! Imagine if we could get hold of those member lists somehow.
Yeah, that would be something else.
How many? Do you know how many members were playing at the WoW era?
You know what I'm going to say? It was not as many as the Neocron era. It was probably the heyday. Like, I mean, our Neocron membership at one point, I think, hit like 130 members. I'm not going to say they were all active, as they weren't, but I would say, at any given time, we'd have 40 to 60 members online in the chat or doing whatever. Like, it was pretty good times.
Yeah, but because I noticed that during this Reloaded era, now we have actually cycled over 300 people. 300 people. Some have stayed, some are out, some are gone, but it makes me wonder, like, how many counts would you say is out there somewhere? Or how many counts have there been?
Well, I mean, it would all come down to the question of what do you consider a con? Is that somebody who's played for a day, a week, a month? Like that. And I would ask you that question. I mean, what do you think would give someone the right to say, yeah, I played with the cons?
Yeah, just to say they play with the cons, they just have to play with the cons, I guess. But if we're talking about raiders, people who have been for a while or stayed for a while, what do you think?
All right. Yeah, if it was going to be Raiders, I would say we were probably, if if I really sat down, I would say we probably. I'm talking to people who played like kind of, whatever, 2 to 3 months or
Yeah,
more. I would say we're probably looking at, I don't know, 250 to 300.
that's great.
And if I'm just talking about people I registered for a day,
Yeah.
I'm probably talking 2,000. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, probably. So, after this period, after Auto Assault, when I mean things went dark for a while, and when did the cons emerge again?
I got an email from an ex-con who was also part of another organization called the Road Warriors. And this is actually another funny theme that seems to happen. But he emailed me, and basically his name is Arcanix, and he told me, hey, there's this game. We're waiting for an official Fallout online, but there's also this other game, Fallout 2238, and you should come check this out. And this is how it works, and I'll hook you up. And I joined because of that, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I really got into it right away. And I guess I reached out to the old forums, or I ran into, I don't know, Bison or a couple other guys or whatever, and started sending emails. And actually, we put together the crew and got the website back up and running, and had access to the old forums, etc., and started playing again in 2011.
So, with that, we have with that we have covered the history up until 2238, and I think we should bring. I wish we still had Newton outside jail, but we should bring in Sven for the next episode, and perhaps Vile to talk about 2238.
I would totally agree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for participating, sir. And this has been Mengelito with our guest tonight, Gargantua, signing out.